Straight year, the Philadelphia Eagles, well, they sleepwalked through the first half, except the Atlanta Falcons, they're not the Jacksonville Jaguars. The offensive line couldn't even block a Twitter follower. The front seven didn't generate any pressure. And Byron Maxwell looked like a $63 million piece of burnt toast. But let's keep calm and chip on, Philadelphia. After the preseason, the Bitterbirds, we were telling you guys to temper your expectations. But now we're telling you to relax. Jeremy Burton is here. I'm Adrian Fedque. We're doing it live. And, well, unfortunately, it's a loss in week one. But let's talk about it. Let's bring Jeremy on the show.
Well, our name says true today. We are the Bitterbirds. That was the most disappointing start to the year. I mean, you're right. The Atlanta Falcons were not the Jacksonville Jaguars. Dan Quinn, he made an impressive rookie performance as a head coach. Kyle Shanahan was dialing up our defense in the first half. He was moving Julio Jones all over the place, made us look terrible. Our offense was out of sync in the first half. We looked like shit. And, you know, once we hit halftime, I'm just like, we got to better make some adjustments. And fortunately, we did do a little better in the second half, but just quite couldn't pull it out. We'll get into all the mistakes. I think Chip Kelly was out-coached. He showed some indecisiveness. And it has just very, very disappointing effort to start the year.
Yeah, completely agree with you. And here's what I have to say. Before Monday night, I said the Eagles were going to go 11-5, and they still weren't better than Green Bay or Seattle. After the game, I still think the Eagles are going to go 11-5, and they're still not better than Green Bay or Seattle. So this game completely does not change the way I feel about this team. I'm still very confident in this team moving forward, and all you guys should be too. Now, basically what happened was this. I did not think the Atlanta Falcons defense was going to be this good this fast. Dan Quinn, I mean, the change of culture that he's brought along, Mike Smith's out of here. It's a very defensive team now, at least the mindset is, and you can see it on the players, man. You get guys like Justin Durant looks really, really good. O'Brien Schofield had a big game. Paul Warlow was good. Adrian Claiborne. All these new pieces are making immediate impacts. You don't see defenses gel with new schemes, new personnel, new head coaches until like week 4, week 8 into the season. You don't see it this quickly. And you got to give all the credit in the world to Dan Quinn and the Falcons for this game. They showed up to play. And, yeah, granted, you know, the Eagles didn't show up until the second half, but the Falcons deserve to win this game.
Yeah, I think you're right. One thing we can look at is there are a bunch of winnable games on the schedule coming up. We have the Jets. We have a must-win game this weekend against the Cowgirls, I should say. They lost Dez Bryant for 6 to 8 weeks. Deshaun Jackson's out for a month. We'll see the Redskins without Deshaun. So we don't have to worry that much about Byron Maxwell getting skin cancer and getting burnt that bad as he did by Julio Jones. He only has to deal with the likes of Terrence Williams this weekend and maybe Pierre Garcon. So that's the silver lining as far as Byron Maxwell goes. I mean, the scary thing was how off we were in the first half. I mean, Sam Bradford's throwing it. Josh Huff thinks it's a running play, hits him in the back. Just couldn't get the running game going, couldn't get protection on Bradford. He was under duress. I was ready for that first half to be over from the start.
Yeah. All right, we'll get back to the first half in just a little bit. The big point of the game is obviously, you know, the last few minutes. The indecisiveness of Chip Kelly. Ryan Matthews gets stuffed on a 3rd and 1. And, you know, we see Cody Parkey get on the field with like 20 seconds on the play clock. With 10 seconds on the play clock, he's lining up to, you know, kick the field goal. The snap goes off with 4, and he misses the field goal chance to the right. Granted, it's a kick you got to make under the pressure, under the circumstances, all that. But Chip didn't help his cause at all. You have 3 timeouts. If it were me, I'd call the timeout. I just, you know, everyone calm down. You go out there, you kick the field goal, you go play defense, you go from there. Instead, you rush him on there, he misses. What were your thoughts on the decision there? Would you have gone for it? Do you rush the kicker out there? Do you call timeout? What would you have done?
The way the game was going, we weren't moving the ball. I honestly would have taken a timeout for sure. And I probably would have designed the right play to get an extra yard. I know you want to take the points, but I just didn't have a good feeling about it. I wanted, because they were going to get the ball back. We would only been up one. Matt Bryant has been a stud. He's been a very consistent veteran. I had a feeling that the Falcons would go down and hit a field goal to, then win by 2 again. So honestly, I would have hoped that Chip would have come up with something to, get that yard.
Yeah, yeah. Me, I would have taken timeout. I would have kicked the field goal, but that's just me. And obviously they went and stopped the Falcons when they got the ball back. My line of thinking was the guards didn't play well. They didn't look good at all. And the way that the Falcons were penetrating through the middle of the defense, this was a concern of mine coming into the game. And, Rashid Hageman was a beast. Grady Jarrett had a good game. Jason Babineau was really good. So I didn't have any confidence in our running game to pick up that yard, especially after Matthews, didn't pick up the yard. So that's just my thinking.
Yeah, and also with the offensive line, Peters was banged up for a play, and he got beat by Vic Beasley, the rookie. Coming from a 7-time Pro Bowler, one of the best in the business. That was kind of scary to see. Another thing, the penalties, the mistakes, and just one drive that was impressive. We overcame about 4. We went 95 yards, overcame about 4 holding penalties, and still got a touchdown on that drive. We outscored them 20-6 in the second half, 21-6. I'm sorry, and just not the performance we wanted to see, but there is some silver linings in there.
Yeah, there's definitely some positives to take away from this game. By the way, I think I might have said Jason Babineau or Jonathan Babineau. I don't know what I said, but it's Jonathan Babineau. So just getting that out of the way. All right, yeah. We talked about Parkey a little bit. Let's talk about Maxwell right now. That drive, though, by the way, that was very, very impressive, the way they went down the field. The way Bradford was hitting all of his throws. 21 of 25 in the second half. That's very, very impressive. But let's talk about Maxwell, because I got a stat here for you guys, and it's kind of funny. All right, so Maxwell gets targeted 11 times last night. Atlanta receivers caught 10 passes for 179 yards, and I haven't even gotten to the good stuff yet. In his time in Philadelphia, Bradley Fletcher never gave up more than 8 catches or 168 yards. Certainly not a good start for Byron. But you know what? At the same time, it's his first game. It would be concerning if this keeps happening. But at the same time, you're facing Julio Jones. You're getting no safety help over the top. Front seven's not generating any pressure, so it's all on him. And Julio, he made it look like mincemeat.
He's a stud.
Yeah. What are you gonna do?
Another concerning play I saw with Byron is, I saw him sucking wind on one long slant route behind Roddy White, and Roddy White is in his 30s. He's Father Time's going to catch up with him very soon. And so that was kind of scary. I was also in the first half where Matt Ryan had all day to throw the ball. So that's, that could have something to do with it. But, yeah, the way Billy Davis just didn't adjust sooner than the second half. He should have made adjustments, as soon as he started seeing us get burned. And that was concerning. I liked Kiko Alonso. Malcolm Jenkins had a few nice plays, even though he dropped 2 interceptions. Maybe Kiko should try out for wide receiver. He pulled in a la Odell Beckham one-handed grab, snagging it out of the air. That was really nice. Benny Logan, Fletcher Cox, they did their thing. D'Amico Ryans did not look good. He looked rusty. So that's what I see on the defense.
Yeah. Just a comment on what you just said there, and going back to Maxwell very shortly. D'Amico only played 2 snaps in the second half. He didn't look good at all. There was the one dump off, either Freeman or I believe it was Freeman. It's a little dump off. He cuts inside, and Ryan's tackle is nothing but air. So you could see the rust right there. He's got to get reacclimated again. Obviously, coming off another Achilles tear, takes a little while to get back into the swing of things. So almost a little bit expected there. Obviously, 2 snaps in the second half. Didn't really see the field that much. It was pretty much all Kiko. And Kiko, man, the way he flies around, so aggressive, flies around to the football, really good in coverage. I mean, that one interception was just a thing of beauty. Roddy White was in the back of the end zone wide open. I'm looking at this play. I'm like, oh, that's a touchdown. He's wide open. And all of a sudden, you just see the athleticism just oozing. And he's jumping up in the air and just snatching it with one hand. Very impressive play there. And going back to Maxwell now, I mean, his technique was off. And the way Shanahan was moving Jones around the line of scrimmage, I mean, very impressive play calling from him. I mean, wasn't getting his jam at the line of scrimmage, and that was because Jones was shaking him at the line and beating him off the snap. So that's basically what was going on.
Yeah, the Falcons also used a lot of like bunch wide receiver formations with Julio, and Byron Maxwell is known for his size and his physicalness at the line of scrimmage. So when they're in those bunch formations, he's kind of got to play back a little bit, and that takes away his advantage that he has of jamming him at the line. And you're also dealing with Julio Jones. So just definitely disappointing in every way by our big free agent signing, Byron Maxwell.
Yeah. But you know what? It's Julio Jones. He's one of the best in the business. He's going to do that to the best corners in the league. So, we've been saying it all along, though. Like, Maxwell got top 5 money. He's not even a top 10 corner. So he is, like, overrated in that sense. But he's still a good corner. He is overpaid. I mean, we've always said that. But, we'll see. We'll see what happens as the season goes along. I'm by no means giving up on him. You can't after one game going up against Julio Jones. That's just crazy talk. But it's one game, so we'll see. And the other thing I want to get into here is what I noticed from the Falcons in the first half. A lot of max protect with the offensive line, allowing Ryan to get all day to throw. I mean, we just weren't generating any pressure whatsoever, and so basically they're just utilizing 2 wide receivers in the sets, and you can do that when you have Julio Jones because he's going to beat whomever every single time. So a lot of those deep crossing routes were beating us. Where like the first 4 or 5 drives of the game, that was a problem.
Yeah, definitely. And also touching on the secondary, we had several shows about who's going to man the slot, and we saw special teamer Chris Maragos manning the slot of all people, and he's not a starter in the NFL. He's a great special teams player, but so Eric Rowe didn't see the field. I think E.J. Biggers was in for 1 or 2 plays when Nolan Carroll went out for a second. Luckily we tightened up a little bit in the second half, got pressure, a little more pressure on Matt Ryan, and I mean, my voice is still a little hoarse from last night and all the screaming I did. I'm a bitter bird today, man.
Yeah, all Philadelphia is not very happy at all. So go touch it up on the secondary again. Rowe didn't see the field. E.J. Biggers only played 1 snap. Nolan Carroll was getting kind of beat too. I was a little bit surprised that, I get that they, the way that the Eagles play corner, they have one guy on one side of the field, one guy on the other. No shadowing from Maxwell. Not that it would have mattered. I mean, Jones was just beating everybody. But you pay a guy all this money, and I would have thought he would have been on the, best receiver. I don't know. I'm kind of questioning that a little bit.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So, and again, going in with the secondary, they love to do the little single high thing with the safeties. But here's the thing I didn't like. I get that they're trying to use the safeties to man the slot because they're not confident in any of the other corners. Like You're not going to trot Bro out there. You're not going to trot Biggers out there whatsoever. But the problem is Maxwell seeing one-on-one coverage with Julio Jones. Like, for instance, the Dallas Cowboys did a pretty nice job on Odell Beckham on Sunday night. And that's because they were double-teaming him and using, a lot of those things. And Maxwell, he was one-on-one. No help whatsoever. Nothing. So, you had Jenkins in single high on that 44-yard reception. He just couldn't get there in time. So that's, I hate this scheme sometimes of Billy Davis. Sometimes, man, he'll have his moments of brilliance, and then there's shit like this, games like this, where he's just, I can't stand him.
Like, what's he thinking?
Yeah.
I mean, when we initially hired him, he didn't have a great resume. He never had a really top-ranked defense. So I don't know. I miss Jim Johnson. God rest his soul.
Yeah, seriously. I wish I had the stat on me right now, and I don't have it. I completely forget what it was, but it was a great stat that I saw regarding Johnson and Davis. But going back to that, man, the first half. The second half they got more blitzing going on on Ryan, and the pressure was getting to him a lot more, and that was one of the main reasons why Jones only had one catch in the second half. Another reason was because every time he caught a ball, there was a flag, and they brought it back. But the officiating terrible on both sides. By the way, we'll get into that a little. Yeah,
17 penalties I think total in the game.
10 penalties on the Eagles. So yeah, just. We'll get to that later in the show. But Davis, man, it's just like the game plan was horrible. I mean, they did a better job of, executing in the second half, but I don't know what the hell they were doing out of the gate.
Yeah, you don't want to fall behind by 17 points in the first half. I would think if you're planning for a team, you would plan for the best receiver in the league a little better. You would get a little more pressure and not fall behind the eight ball so much. We completely disregarded the running game. Looking at Murray and Matthews' rushing yards for the game, it made my stomach churn. I mean, DeMarco Murray, who had 1,800 rushing yards, over 1,800 rushing yards last year, never had less than 40 yards in a first half ever last year. He finished the game with 8 rushes for 9 yards. And Matthews, 3 rushes for 4 yards. I think Sproles was our high man. He only had 5 carries, but 50 yards, and he also had over 70 yards receiving. Sproles, that's one silver lining here. Loved how he utilized him. He's just doing his thing, outrunning everybody, being the mismatch. So that was nice to see. But the rushing attack just – it wasn't there. You bring these one-cut runner guys in, and we're running sweeps and not doing the one-cut rushing, the north-south kind of thing. The game plan was just utterly awful, and I think Chip got out-coached by Kyle Shanahan was dialing up their offense, but they brought Dan Quinn in. He was a defensive mind from Seattle, so. It's just we just didn't bring our A game, that's for sure. And this is a must-win game on Sunday. Luckily, they don't have Dez, so hopefully we can get Romo on his back a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Going back to that rushing attack, yeah, that's something I put it out on Twitter, man. I mean, it seemed like every run that they had was along the boundary. That sweep play that they like to do, and they did better in the second half with the blocking, Kelsey pulling, and Lane Johnson with the kickout block and all that stuff. But that's not Matthews and Murray's game. That's not what they're known for. They are powerful one-cut runners between the tackles. And what Chip said after the game was that the Atlanta Falcons, their defensive tackles were really stout against the run. And I can understand with the guard situation, all that stuff, but you're talking about Murray here. He's a top 10 running back in the league. You run the ball between the tackles. I don't care who the defensive tackles are. I don't care if you're going up against Ndamukong Suh. You run the ball between the tackles. You play to your personnel strengths. These guys are not, that's not what they're known for. They're not jitterbugs like McCoy. Like
what's that telling you about how he feels about Andrew Gardner and Alan Barbary? I mean, the guards in there.
They weren't good last night. They weren't good last night, but you got to run the ball between the tackles, and that's the other thing too. 52 passes, 16 runs. 52 passes, 16 runs. That's worse than Andy Reid.
Way worse. All those pass attempts, I don't know the exact stat, but teams that throw the ball 50-plus times, their winning percentage is very, very low. It's just, you're throwing it that much because you're playing from behind, obviously. You can't abandon the running game like we did. And when we did run the ball, not utilizing them to their strengths. You're right.
While I do understand that you want to be pass heavy against the Falcons, they were a team that didn't generate a lot of pressure last year. Their secondary is not very good, but 52 and 16,
the only team that was worse against the pass than the Eagles last year. I mean, the Falcons were 32nd, the Eagles were 31st. Yeah. So, but obviously that didn't work for us last night.
Not at all. I mean, I was very disappointed that Bradford would throw the ball 52 times. And, I get that they fell behind, but the ratio was pretty much the same in the first half too. So no excuses. I mean, Chip sometimes, he's so smart that he's too smart. And we see this kind of stuff. Tom Coughlin, too smart. 3rd and goal. You throw the ball. Too smart. Pete Carroll, it's the Super Bowl. You throw the ball.
When you have Marshawn Lynch.
You throw to a guy with 16 career receptions. These coaches, man, sometimes you just keep it simple, stupid.
Keep calm and chip on.
Yes. Keep calm and chip on. And we tried to keep calm and chip on last night, despite being down 20-3, but fortunately just couldn't come all the way back. And this is where we'll get to the differences that we saw between the first half and the second half. So I'll pose the question to you. What did you see in the second half that was different than the first half?
We scored points.
Well, oh man, I didn't bring you on this show to freaking say that kind of shit.
Well,
we scored more.
I showed a little better protection for Bradford. Like you said, we got more pressure on Matt Ryan. Like you said, we held Julio, only one catch, even though it was a 40-yarder. Billy Davis adjusted, called more blitzes, and Bradford, we had that really impressive drive that I went back to before, where he was on target. Bradford went 21 for 25 in the second half, so he had a better second half than first half, and wasn't throwing the ball at people's backs, and they were a little more in sync, and not as in sync as I still like overall, but we still had a couple key drops. Jordan Matthews comes to mind at the very end, even though he had a studly game, 10 grabs, 102 yards. But the ball was a little high, but it hit him in the hands. He's got to come down with that at the end. After all the mistakes we made in the game, we still had a chance to win on that last drive. The defense stopped them, got the ball back, down by 2, and then unfortunately the ball bounced off Matthews' hands and was intercepted in the middle of the field.
Yeah, and that's the positive you can take away from this game is you're down all those points. As bad as you look in the first half, to still have a chance to win the game, very impressive, really is. Except, we just got to clean up a lot of stuff. It's week 1, and, you'll see this kind of around the league. A lot of mistakes with a lot of the teams. Cowboys didn't look good. Giants didn't look good. A lot of teams look like this. So, just got to fix it all. And, well, from my point of view, the way I kind of saw it, I thought the conditioning level of the Eagles, you could really see it in the second half, the way that, really pushing the pace and really moving the ball down the field more effectively. And the other thing was Bradford was taking what the defense was giving him. So a lot of short routes, a lot of check downs, letting the receivers get the yards after the catch. He was very, very effective, though. I mean, with his accuracy, obviously, going 21 of 25. But, so taking what the defense giving you, and the offensive line, too, you said that as well. Bradford wasn't able to set his feet in the first half because the rush kept coming and popping him in the face. Second half, getting a lot better protection, able to step into his throws, and was a lot more effective that way. So that's kind of what I was seeing. And I'll say this, though. Bradford's not going to make it through a whole year if he keeps taking licks like that. Oh, man, just
a lot of licks. First half and second half. I mean, he was getting popped. It was scary. I mean, he did a precautionary X-ray after the game on his ankle. So whatever that means, they say he's fine. But it just goes to tell you, game one, the Falcons defense, not known for a strong defense, they were swarming last night. They were swarming all over us. And I mean, especially in the first half, we were able to score more in the second half. But they definitely underestimated Dan Quinn's prowess and his how he can mold that team.
Yeah, took a lot of licks, man. I mean, that's all I gotta say. He took enough licks that you could have gotten to the Tootsie Roll Pop.
There you go. Yeah,
I don't know how I come up with this.
Good one. Yeah, I didn't come up with this shit.
Oh man, yeah. So yeah, he took a lot of licks, and I did get an X-ray after the game for something, but they say he's fine. So I think it was for a possible sprained ankle, but I think it sounds like he's okay.
Yeah, I agree. That's what I heard. Also, week one, you're on the road in a dome, and it's new coach. Dan Quinn's in there. The guys were fired up. Like I said, their defense was swarming. They got off to a real hot start. Hard to come back from a game like that, being down 20-3 at half. And we did take the lead for a short period, but just unfortunately couldn't hold up. And like I said, you can take away from this that we, despite all the horrendous mistakes and how far behind we were, we still had a chance to pull it out with a minute left down there at the end. Yeah,
and I guess we'll get into that very impressive drive that they had, where they wound up. Well, technically, I think it was a 95-yard drive. But man, four penalties on this thing, like all holding penalties, and they just go right down the field. It doesn't matter about the holding penalty. They just go right down. And Sproles was excellent drive from him. The yards after the catch that he was getting were absolutely unbelievable. The wheel routes, the little angle routes, I mean, just in the flat on the swing passes. He was, wow, he was awesome.
Yeah, that little guy, he's impressive, man. He's Swiss Army knife, as Chip calls him. So he was utilized efficiently, effectively. I think he was utilized, correctly. So that was good to see. Let's keep that up because he's a weapon, man. And let's just hope. I mean, I didn't see much from Nelson Aguilar. Like I said, Jordan Matthews was the stud of the receiving core. Zach Ertz made a couple plays. So we just hope that we're more in sync from the get-go. Home opener against the Cowgirls this weekend. It's going to be a monumentous game.
Oh, huge game. Very, very huge game. And our preview show for that game will be on Thursday. So little teaser there. All right, I want to talk about the wide receivers then, because coming into the season, it was a young group, and we didn't really know what to expect from them. We kind of knew what we had in Jordan Matthews. We knew that Darren Sproles would be utilized a little bit more, and our key was basically Josh Huff. We didn't know what to really expect from him being his second year. Aguilar, I think he only had like one catch, so two young pups. Huff and Aguilar, the two key guys. Rough night for them. Huff, I think Huff basically was taken out of the game after the one play where he's blocking and doesn't turn around and look for the ball. He was taken out of the game, I believe. Riley Cooper was out there.
Yeah, even Cooper had a couple catches. I believe Cooper had 3 grabs for 25 yards. Ertz had 3 for 46. And then, of course, Jordan Matthews, 10 for 102. And you'd like to see more out of, Huff is our apparently deep threat. I mean, he's our speed guy, right? He's our kick returner, too. I don't think Sam Bradford threw the ball more than and didn't throw a more than 20-yard pass. I mean, the whole game. At least I didn't see it. And you would think Huff was kind of the wild card going into this season. So you would hope that he could have a couple big plays like that. But unfortunately, he was completely out of sync. He thought it was a running play, and a pass came right to him. He's there blocking a guy, hits him in the back. It's like, come on, man. Well, what are you doing?
Yeah. Going back to your point, the stat that I saw is only 4 completions where he threw the ball over 9 yards. So there you go. A lot of checkdowns. We make fun of Mark Sanchez for being check down Charlie. Well, check down Sam was in full force last night.
No, he absolutely was. He absolutely was. I mean, Sproles had, he had 7 grabs too. He was second on our team in catches. But I like that. That's great. I mean, Sproles should be utilized more as a receiver. He had 126 total yards. So between rushing and receiving.
Yeah. Let's talk about maybe the lack of cohesion that we're seeing between Bradford and the receivers. We've talked about Huff. There was a back shoulder throw where Bradford tried to get it to Aguilar. He's looking inside. The ball's outside. Obviously, Bradford's looking back shoulder there. There was the seam pass to Ertz down the right seam where Ertz is looking inside. The linebacker's right there. So Bradford's trying to throw it back shoulder, and Ertz isn't looking for it, and it goes behind him. So, because on Twitter, I was saying, well, that was a bad throw from Bradford, maybe a little bit, but Ertz is also not looking that way, and that's because he didn't play in the preseason. They haven't gotten a chance to build a rapport. So, a lot of things that they need to work on. The cohesion is one. I mean, Aguilar didn't do anything. So we'll see. Young pups. I mean, there's going to be growing pains, so this is expected. And we'll see what happens moving forward. But Matthews, Sproles, we talked about it already. Those 2 guys definitely showed up.
Yeah, for sure. You mentioned the lack of preseason cohesion. Bradford only had the one drive in the one game. Then he had the great 10 throws in the Green Bay game, but he still played only 3 series. So the rapport will, I think, get there. These are a rookie, and Jordan Matthews in his second year. Aguilar's a rookie. So I think we gotta just keep calm and chip on here, and we just got to I think we'll be okay. The next few games, I see a few wins in a row.
Yeah. We cannot stress the keep calm and chip on enough here in Philadelphia. Man, I mean, I don't know if I said this already on this show or if I said it on the pre-show, but I'll say it again. Before the start of the season, all the Eagles fans, after the preseason, we were going to the Super Bowl. And after last night, I'm on Twitter and all these fans are like, oh man, we're not even going to make the playoffs. So it's already starting. We are so bipolar here in Philadelphia. I can't stand it sometimes.
That's why they need us as real true fans who won't be so back and forth and we're thinking one way or feeling one way the other day, and next day we're just pissed. But yeah, obviously we're upset. But I just think that it's just going to take. These are learning pains. This was brought us back to reality and said, okay, all right, Chip, you're not actually the genius. You all probably overthought some things and showed some indecisiveness, and maybe we'll just do better next time.
No, he is a genius. He's just too smart. That's the problem.
So smart that he's dumb sometimes. The common sense that, sometimes smart people lack.
Yep. Let's talk about the officiating. I hate bringing up officiating because I don't want to use that as an excuse, and it shouldn't be used as an excuse because Atlanta deserved to win the game. But the officiating was really bad on both sides. Unfortunately, the one call that really came into play, with Kiko Alonso, he's playing tag out there, and that was the play where Fletcher Cox forces the fumble, and huge point in the game to get that turnover, and it's nullified. And then the very next play, so Maxwell gets beaten for a touchdown. So we go from an awful call to awful coverage, and touchdown Atlanta.
Yeah, that was, I believe, that was right before the first half ended. Bradford had a horrible throw to give the ball to Atlanta. I think he had pressure in his face. He just zoned in on one guy, and then you didn't see the linebacker jump right in front in zone coverage. And then very next, a couple plays later was the fumble we mentioned by Cox. But of course, Kiko literally grazed the receiver's arm, and unbelievable call. Like, really, such a big point in the game. That's, it's a huge swing of momentum right before halftime. Like I said, that just, you hate to talk about officiating this way, but just more odds we overcame, stuff like that. We overcame those odds and still actually took the lead at one point in the second half, and had our chance to win at the very end too. After all that bullshit.
Mm-hmm. But it also worked both ways as well, because there were, the one play that the Falcons kept doing was the one where they motioned Jones, and they would have him run in the flat. You'd have Hankerson and White blocking, and there was like 2 or 3 instances where Hankerson was blocking before the catch was made. And these were holding penalties that were, offensive pass interference penalties that were called that helped the Eagles defense get off the field. So some of them were questionable, some of them were the correct call, but again, just shoddy officiating on both sides.
Yeah, we didn't have Ed Hockley in there. We need him and his muscles doing the calls. Ed Hockley, there you
go. you were waiting for that all show.
Just came from the gym working all day, man. Didn't feel like changing, so.
Sure you did. Oh man, that's funny. That's funny. Yeah, I mean, poor officiating, but again, not an excuse. Atlanta deserved to win, and I talked about this with you pre-show. None of the viewers are going to understand this. Maybe I'll try to explain this one time, but I do like a grading system each game. I grade like every play. I do a plus minus for each snap. Certain plays get more pluses because if you get more yards, obviously you get more pluses. So the Falcons won the first half 61-30. And by the end of the game, let's see here. Eagles were up 48-27 in the second half. And then overall, Atlanta won 88-78. So 88-78, that tells me Atlanta deserved to win this game. And, you could see it out there on the field. They were the better team, at least last night.
I think so. Yeah, it's unfortunate, but we just seems like we didn't. They wanted. It seemed like they wanted it more. They were fired up. It's much different playing in a dome than a team that's used to playing on grass as opposed to turf, and the noise in a dome is obviously much louder. So, I mean, you can't make those excuses either. But we just didn't show up. Obviously, in the first half, you can't put yourself in a hole like that. Period. Atlanta, dominated and kept the lead overall.
Yeah, exactly. So, man, I got nothing else. No other topics. We basically broke down the game from start to finish. Nothing else really to say. So, unless you got anything else.
Moving on to Dallas. I'm putting this one in the rearview mirror. So.
All right, we want Dallas, baby. So yeah, this is your time where final thoughts. Let's go get you out of here so you can go eat some dinner.
Final thoughts. Temple had an impressive win against Cincinnati, and the Owls are 2-0, baby. And I love it. That was so nice to see.
I love it.
And let's just hope that the Eagles can keep calm and chip on, and Chip is just pull out the win on Sunday. It couldn't be more intense and important.
Dude, I could go on right now for 10 minutes on that game, but I know you're hungry, so we'll get you out of here. So yeah, with that being said, that's Jeremy Burton. I'm Adrian Fedke. I hope you guys enjoyed our recap. Unfortunately, we lost the game, but there's 15 more of them. We're still going 11-5, bitches. So it's gonna happen. I'm out. We're out. Take care. Later.
Go Birds.
Yes, sir.